Hello, everyone, and welcome to Secure IT, where we discuss all things cybersecurity, people, trends, and products. Thank you for joining us on this ongoing journey. Um, Today's guest is interesting. Um, I'll give you the credibility and his basic entry into the world of cybersecurity. Started with an MS in applied and computational math, so good pedigree from Johns Hopkins. Did an MBA in digital transformation. Worked for the Federal Reserve Board, MITRE, and is now director of data science at Binary Defense. That's how we met on a very interesting podcast. However, this leads to the more, that was just his day job. And this leads to the more exciting times in his life. He travels, um, does visit China. That got my attention. And while I might not say all things China, definitely has a potential to offer us some insights into working with China and cybersecurity. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Angus Chen.
Thank you, Phillips.
Uh,
Thank you for having me on this. I'm super excited.
Me too, Angus, and I never thought I would use the words cybersecurity and China in the same sentence, but here we are, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a few. So let's start with, the man behind the myth, right? I mean, this is like heavy duty data science at Binary Defense. It is a heavy lift, right? And you do some
Right.
exciting stuff. What are, if I were to sum it up, and not necessarily two or three, but what are the major career moves, Angus, that got you to where you are today?
But cybersecurity, by the way, this binary defense is a startup in a hyper growth mode, and it's a super exciting time to join them. And it's been quite a fun journey to answer your questions. It's really like when I was in China and I organized karaoke or KTV, karaoke TV. Very nice rooms with a view of the bumps. That's like a world class view. You see those skyscraper in
I
the
do. I
the
do. I see
river.
a tall building. I always watch that skyline because it has the word Aurora on one of the buildings. So
Oh, that's right, Aurora IT. Yes,
that's
yes.
yeah. So
And
please
then
continue.
so I was there, because I was the host with a local a ladies' help to organize this event. I was super nervous because most of guests I literally just met on this trip, and they are all at the executive levels. Um, they keep handing the microphone to me, so they're asking, Angus, what's your song? And it's them as what's your move? I be super honest. When I finally decided to have the microphone and sing, people were somewhat disappointed because I really don't have any moves. It just happened, serendipitous. Yes, it's
Yes.
really serendipitous. That happened. But
Next
at the
time,
same,
take me along with you because you haven't seen my moves. That'll make your moves look really good. They have me sing if they want to clear the room out at the end of a party. So
yeah, there's a saying like, if you want to go for a long term, you want to
mhm.
have a partner. I would love that partner like you.
Deal. I'll make you look really good. So, Angus, how did you get here? Like, how did you get? Can you, if and I know it's a long career. We talked about MS, that you started it in applied and computational math. You did an MBA in digital transformation. But as you look back at your career, right? You talked about Taiwan. You talked about China. And so if I were to say, hey, what are the three milestone moves that got you to director of data science?
uh, at, back then, there was never a term called data science that
Okay.
years ago. So after college, I I I enjoyed during the college, I enjoyed the freedoms, and I appreciate this country, the United States has given to me, and I understand because I'm coming from Taiwan, which is or Eastern society. I'm sure similar to India. There's a lot
Very
of
much so.
social culture and so forth. and I really enjoy the freedoms that I had. And so I set a goal for myself is to do things for the public good because I want this to continue. I want this. Um, for me, I recognize the world is flat. You know, we if I we can do anything in terms of business and the freedom to do business and so forth. Um, so I started with a mindset and a goal of doing things for the public good, and that's why you see throughout my career, I was private sector and not for profit in the public sectors. All three are for the public good.
Probably.
It and I play a different capacity. Um, for data science, it's really I stumble into it. When after college, my last class was investment, and this very typical me. You know, if I don't remember anything I learned in school, must find something and grab and move on with it. So the last sentence I got, I remember, is called financial engineering. I heard and I learned that it's going to change the world. So I grabbed on that financial engineering, and knowing that I don't have enough math background. So I did the opposite of what people do it. Um, after studying finance, I decided to study math. And while I was in between jobs, I fill out those basic math background. And as I work at Federal Reserve, and I ask for tuition assistance, and that's how I get the opportunity, you know, to study at applied mathematics. Um, of course, the young me that's want to do other things. So while I was studying, I was also on a rowing team that I mentioned earlier. 2 years rowing, school got behind, and realized that I need to stop one of them. So I choose to stop rowing. But I left with two VIPs from the boathouse. I don't believe any it has ever been done before. So I was the VIP.
Wow.
I'm sorry, the MVP of the
MVP.
boathouse, as well
Very
as the
nice.
MVP of the team. You typically get one, not both. Um, so that was the memory of rowing time.
Good, good. Maybe you'll get back to it one day, but that's impressive. So, not and I appreciate your humility, but not just a degree in applied math, a degree in applied math from Johns Hopkins, and went on to Federal Reserve, MITRE. I just want to digress for a second because you touched on immigrant life, right? And both of us are zero generation. Um, implants from Asia. You've landed on the East Coast in DC. I'm in LA. And you're absolutely right that one of the first things that strikes you or me or us is freedom in this country. I have traveled the world. And Angus, I don't think there's another place in the world where you can take a pair of jeans and return it to a store for no reason, right?
Yes, yes.
No questions asked. I know when we have guests and family visiting, we're like, look, I've changed my mind. I don't like to tone the color. And we're like, yeah, let's go take it back. And they're like, yeah, really? Just like that? Yes, just like that. Right. And then customer is king. But truly, I'm being a little facetious about measuring freedom in the number of jeans, articles of clothing that you can return, but it goes to the culture of this great country. And like you, ingrained in me, in the family, is this need and ability that automatically comes in to pay it forward. You talked about nonprofits, and so it's just a natural response to be able to pay it forward. And I would say that the flavor is, we live in one of the most generous countries in the world. Whether it was um, uh, when the Twin Towers were hit, or Katrina, or COVID, Americans are known for their generosity, and they keep
Yes.
giving, right? And so I just wanted to highlight uh,
Oh,
those two
yep,
comments.
absolutely. And you mentioned Generation Zero, and that's the reason why I uh, I wanted to be at this podcast because I have not seen a podcast talking about Generation Zero. We are also the foundation of this countries that build it from the ground up, and
True.
the freedoms we appreciate when I uh, well, as an American, when I look at a country like China, sometimes I see China might be a complete opposite. So um, I went to China just a few weeks ago, and the experience was I realized that I had a stereotype of China because
Uh-huh.
I'm from Taiwan. I went to
Right.
China. I
Right.
thought people would look at me differently, and as well as all those gray wall, firewall, and so on and so forth. I mean, I did experience that. It's the same as when I travel to Europe. I will have problem to find a phone carrier. I know it's like now I know you just sign out with Orange or use eSIM cards. But for people who are in with traveling within the US, I didn't have that experience. So what I'm trying to say is that to me, the experience when I entered China is the same as how when I enter Europe. But once you have that figured out, how to take taxi, where to go to eat, and so on and so forth. The life is just as good as the United States. The first thing I arrived, I try to jaywalk. I don't know what I do here. And my friends pull me back, say, "Hey, there's a police at the two sides, and there are cameras on the top." And then we just, quietly walk towards to the traffic light and following the rule, walk across the street. Um, it was a little bit inconvenience, but when we start to do things following the rules, we are not worrying about those unpredicted things. I know my neighbor
Right.
jaywalked and he was hit by cars, and
Sure.
he was sent to the hospital with traffic tickets over his chest because he didn't
I
he
mean, I'm
jaywalked. Yeah,
sorry that he got hit, but they remembered to give him a traffic ticket. But I can see the
right.
headlines now, Angus. Famous high-powered data scientists fined for jaywalking in China. The headline. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but thank you for clarifying that because our initial reaction is, hey, shut everything down, don't connect at any access point at the airport, use a burner phone, etc. And yes, you're saying, look, it's a pretty normal world out there, and China is open for business and with the necessary cautions and etc. But it's a pretty good life akin to what we do here in the US, and they're probably a little better at giving tickets for jaywalking. So,
I think
we'll come back there to that in a minute. But let's talk about your day job. Um, and let's connect from the Fed Reserve to MITRE to binary defense. I'm going to use those as the three main stops in your career. What is it that you do today?
what do I do? I'm a director of data science. I'm involving in a wide spectrum of my responsibility covers multiple things. Uh, I have a QA OKR need to meet at the director level. I'm responsible for the business bottom line, and also I am engaging with different organizations across binary defense is to promote the culture from my perspective of using AI as an assistant or a co-pilot to make our job easier, and that's also my goal. And the third thing
Nice.
is to research and develop um, a, a, a new approach to solve our client's problem. And it could be specific to a client. It also could be solutions across multiple clients.
So you've given me I know we're going from 3-letter to 4-letter acronyms, but you just gave me 3 2-letter acronyms. You gave me QA, you gave me AI, and you gave me R&D where the N doesn't count. So you gave me 2 three two-letter acronyms. So let's break that down for a minute. What does quality assurance? And Angus, my opinion is, you're sitting somewhere in the bowels of the earth and you're looking at vast amounts of data, and you're looking for trends and analysis and applying all kinds of computational and applied mathematics and looking for trends, a lot of which now can be done through AI. But what's at the heart of QA from with your data scientist glasses on? What
I see.
does QA look like?
So most of people have heard of uh, quality control, so
Y-
QC, and
Yeah.
and QA comes after quality control. So it does us over making sure that quality control, we have the right good quality control. So what QA does is quality assurance and making sure the quality is there. Uh, for example, in data science, AI or ML, what we would do, we are worrying about data drift. An example of data drift, it's let's say on the consumer side, before pandemic, people had certain shopping behavior. During the pandemic, the behavior changed. Maybe it's from in store to online, and that's what the data drifting. So when there's a data drifting, we need to go back to make sure the model is still applicable to the data that we are doing we are doing the analysis on. So that's one of the example of quality control as well as quality assurance, making sure the things that we are deliver to to our customer is actually what we plan will agree on to deliver to the customer.
Interesting. And this is with vast amounts of data applied to it, so you can test um, various scenarios, and including, I like the point about data drift, especially with an AI emphasis, right? So you can correct. Um, I can't resist this question. I'm going off script for a minute, Angus. So the
You
moment you say
always go
quality,
obstruct.
I do always go off script. so, so I will
I love
continue
it.
off script.
Yeah,
I can't resist. So
I
let's
love
talk
it.
about thank you. Let's talk about CrowdStrike. Okay. And let's talk about the patch that is just another day in the life of the programmers. I mean, especially CrowdStrike, war binary defense is at the forefront of having to protect us against the bad guys. And part of the job is to keep that front line updated, right? And so a patch is just another Monday morning, right? Or a Tuesday morning in this case. And so, patch is designed. The QC guys apparently look at this, they put it in a little firebox, they test it, it works, and they send it into production. And the world stops turning. Comment on that, please. I'd love to hear your opinions.
Oh my god. Uh, the short answer is, it must be the intern, right?
Right. Yeah,
It's not-
exactly. It's the intern or it's the
right.
quality testing software, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Therefore the question.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an excellent question. Let's think about what happened then. So it was a Friday afternoon. They released a patch, like you say, and this patch goes to the kernel that affects the entire system, and it's spread across to I mean all the other companies up do the regular update. It affects their IT system, and that's what happened. When I was at Federal Reserve, I do um I do application, and when I come on board, they they told me that don't if nothing is wrong, don't touch anything.
Yeah, if it
And
ain't broke, don't fix it.
and bro, yeah, and you know, Federal Reserve, we have
Right.
releases like for example, consumer credits, uh, labor industry, statistic, and so forth. We literally doing the release like uh, weekly, and I happen to manage this statistical software, and I have my opinion how to run my patches. Some people will run code to everything, so that the patches is even including the language updates and so forth. And some people will just select to, uh, s- selectively to select certain features to run the patches. So one day I just decided to run the patches without select the certain features. And I immediately get a phone call. Hey, say we have this is industrial outputs. We are about to do the critical release. Could you stop messing around with the systems? And that moment, I realized that how important my
In-
my the impact of what I do
right,
to
right.
to like industrial outputs that which will be using on Wall Street or across the globe. Um, from that experience, I know people make mistake, but at the level at the country, I mean at a company like the size, there are also some framework and approach they adopt. For example, DevSecOps. Um, when you are rolling out patches, have you gone through a certain process before you release it? Um, this is the part I start to look at the government. I think uh, sometimes governments might be perceived in moving slow, but it has its reason. And because we have this check balances there, when it comes to something like this, we someone will cut it, someone will catch it while we in the process. And this goes back to the quality assurance. Someone's there is making sure the quality is there before it goes out.
And in this case, it was a hard one because, this is a kernel level update. And in a lot of cases, the patch was physically written to a file, and the only remediation was to log into millions of machines and delete the file. I mean, this is not funny at any level, right? It was tedious. But let's talk about the government, and let's talk about your time in the Federal Reserve. Um, it's There's a juxtaposition here, Angus. So help me with this, okay? On one side, you know, the government is like the Mercedes Benz, right? You will not, I mean, Mercedes Benz for a long time didn't have cup holders because they wanted to test the technology. And they were like, okay, this is a performance car. Do we really need a cup holder? So it's tried and tested before it's actually implemented, much like all things government. But it leaves me a excitedly confused, and I'll tell you why. Today, NIST and various government organizations, including CISA, are leading the conversation when it comes to AI and risk mitigation. I have now moved on to the second two-letter acronym after QA. You mentioned AI, so let's talk about AI. The Federal Reserve, on one hand, was working with vast amounts of data much before it was a fashion statement. They were applying machine learning and large language models, almost a decade ahead of the rest of us, right? And this is work that was being done. So exciting work, leading edge work. And yes, you know what? You have to be careful in terms of what you're doing. But in terms of governance, regulation, and compliance, GRC, um, it's nice to know that successive administrations are taking the lead. Today, the risk mitigation framework formed by CISA and adopted by NIST is led by government, which is pretty impressive. So comment on that, please. Comment on first AI and the Federal Reserve, and they're actually using AI very early. And what do you see in terms of government's work in terms of GRC today for AI risk mitigation?
Oh, yeah. So when I was at the Federal Reserve, I was on more of the research side, research and statistics division. That's
Got it.
where we have consumer finance, real estate divisions. Now they might have separate that as consumer credit and real estate becomes important. Uh, in terms of the you mentioned about CISA, uh, a quick story. So I I a few years ago, Jen easily become one of the leader of CISA, and watched her talk on YouTube. It was at DevCon, talk about it's time for governments and the hackers join together to fight bad guys. And I listened to her talk and really I got passionate about it, and that's how I got involved in DevCon the year after she gave the talk. And the following year, I become the goon of DevCon. Because like I said, I'm very passionate about for the public good. And when I hear the callings and I follow, CISA has been done a wonderful job for everybody, the industry as well as citizens in the United States. For that, when I was at Federal Reserve, um, AI developments was not there yet when I was there. It was more of um, bringing the data to to the world. How do we break down the barrier to bring those data in ASCII code PDF file, become more visualizations, and there's a graph, interaction graphs, and that was our mission to bring down the wall to bring the data that's available to us, the same time available to to the public. Uh, I didn't know how important then because we were just busy with all, for example, like financial crisis and so forth. Up until one day during the time, uh, I believe it was the so-called freedom of information. Before the of information came out, we were required to retain our data and not to communicate with any other agencies until we figure out a policy, then move forward. So we stopped any communication with other agencies externally. One day, somebody called me. He claimed himself as a commodity trader on Wall Street. He asked me our information are typically not on the public website, a public domain. You couldn't
For
find our
sure.
information. And
Right.
he reached out to me, asked me like, when are you guys going to release this data? I told him that, how did you get my information? Because it's you can't find my information out there. Then I realized also at the same time I realized that how important what we are doing, bringing the data out to the world, to help people to make the decision, and that's what we're doing then. But at that time, we had not reached AI yet.
But so FOIA, right? Freedom of Information Act.
Yes,
Every
yes,
department has someone sitting, you know, in the basement with a large copier whose only job is to respond to FOIA requests, and at 10 cents a copy give you the information that you asked for. And as we continue, we opened with freedom, right? When we
right,
talked about freedom for us and Freedom of Information Act, right? I mean, it's important. A lot of our competitors are able to request quotes and RFQs and responses all through the Freedom of Information Act, because in every government department, there's someone there sitting at the press of a button to give you large volumes of responses at 10 cents a copy. On a quick aside, ladies and gentlemen, Angus Chen's LinkedIn profile does say DEF CON goon. I did check. So those are ominous and fighting words. Well done. Let's talk a
thank
little
you.
more about data. And here's something that I am currently toying with. So these exciting times are just predicated by the fact that we now have large volumes of data, whether we've collected it, whether we are going to generate it synthetically. But next year, we're going to have something like 175 zettabytes of data to play with. So this is fun, right? This is like you, data scientist, being about 3 years old in a sandbox, building sandcastles with this large amount of data that you see. So yes, I get it. It's fun. AI can feed off this, and AI can rapidly discover trends and sequences and things that the human mind can't even start to comprehend. And we often talk about the fact that AI or artificial intelligence might be at a confluence of the point of exceeding human intelligence, right? Just because it can quickly parse through these large volumes of data and give us these insights that we could possibly figure out, but it'll take
Right,
a slightly longer time. add to this in 2 years the potential of quantum computing. And I want to live to see this. So I've doubled up on all my vitamins because, this is going to be really fun, right? To see
Right.
what AI can now do with the speed of quantum computing. Uh, Having said that, and talked about the use of this data, there is another trend afoot, Angus, which is data privacy. And it is summed up by an individual's right to be able to approach an organization and say, I want to delete any of my data that you have, right? So these are two conflicting tsunamis, or the right to an individual to protect his data and this hungry data grabbing concept of AI. Oh, how do you see us? How do you see the near future?
Yes. So what you're talking about is mostly were driven by regulations as well as what's capitalization, right? Uh, Regulation, for example, GDPR.
Yes.
You can
Yeah.
opt out
GDPR, New York's leading, California's got CCPA, CPRA,
CPA.
right? Yes. Lots of new legislation.
And the capitalism, right?
Right.
If you will share your information or data willingly, it can improve my browser, and
Correct.
that was 5 years ago or so, and until now, and we all people across the globe all come to agreement that the privacy is important. For example, take my China experience as example. I visited a company called Winter Tech. They are a company do consumer uh, behavior analysis, and one of it is to uh, using AI to track foot movement, meaning that when you go to the shopping mall, when you take a turn entering a shop, you they are monitoring your movement. Um, just a year ago in China, they do facial recognition, so they track your face, so they know exactly who you are, how many stores you have entered at the shopping mall, and because the this converge of uh, or the consciousness privacy, uh, Chinese government now ask uh, companies stop doing facial recognition for any business purpose.
Interesting. So I want to pause for this. You're saying that Chinese companies are asking organizations to put a pause on data on facial recognition.
Yes, at this particular company, and
Wow.
so so now what they're doing is they're tracking anything below, below a lower body, not at the face, and that's what they are tracking. And also, I start to see the company start to evolve, looking into now that you don't have something unique, in terms of your face, they need to figure out what are the opportunities out there they can use what's the technology and move towards the direction. I think when there's a regulation, but there's also creates opportunity for the company to look into other ways to grow their business.
I couldn't agree more, right? Yes, it does. Every restriction does create more opportunity. Aurora has a product, that we use for multi-factor authentication, where we can recognize the speed, rhythm, and cadence at which a person types. So every person,
Mm,
as they're typing, has a certain speed at which they type. The speed at which you type your first letter compared to the second, compared to the third, the pressure that you put on the keyboard, the general rhythm that you have. So mouse movements and keyboard form for a very unique pattern. And we're able to identify with a high degree of accuracy that you
mm,
are who you really say you are as you're typing and moving your mouse. So it's a product
mm.
called Defend, and it goes to risk mitigation, right? It goes to
Yeah.
biometrics and being able to do multi-factor authentication uh, with biometrics.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so that's for authentication purpose. Can you give me an example how a company or individual would use it, or is this at the enterprise level?
It's the product is offered right across, and it started, Angus, because back in the Second World War, they were, the Morse code, the did da 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 Morse code operators could generally tell who was at the other end at with the similar speed, rhythm, and cadence at which they did their dots and dashes. And so,
Mhm.
University of Vancouver spent a lot of money uh, tracking this and studying it, created an IP. Plurilock, the company that bought Aurora, bought the IP and created this product that literally measures the speed, rhythm, and cadence at which you type and is able to identify who you are and let you into systems. So we have it in the finance, in DoD, and various government organizations, and we offer this product. It's a very thin client. It sits at the endpoint, and you know you've probably seen the DoD video that says, "Hey, use your PIV card, log in, but if you go get coffee, please make sure you log out." Right?
Yeah,
Um, that's security. Even if we did OTP or we did something sent to your device, it's subject to man in the middle attacks. It's not as
right.
secure as a fingerprint or a retina scan. In this case, the biometrics are the speed, rhythm, and cadence of your typing to let you into a system. So I could be in the system. I could walk over, and this has happened with one of our employees. He goes to get a cup of coffee. His little daughter playfully starts typing, locks his system.
I see.
So it's pretty cool, robust security technique.
And when you talk about thin clients, that means it does not disrupt or interrupt the regular users or IT system activities. I see.
Exactly.
And and you have the IP.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So maybe we should talk to binary defense and move this forward. So thank you for that. And then as we're talking about moving forward, and I see moving forward, and I'm going to talk about boldly forward. So October, you're going to be in Vegas.
October. No, next week. Next.
Oh, is
Yes,
it?
I'm going to October too. Next week is
Okay. The
so-called
Security Congress.
yes, ISC2 Security Congress. Next week is so-called the Hackers Boot Camp.
Yep.
Black Hat, and DEFCON. Binary Defense is going to be there, and we have reserved House of Blues on the Thursday night uh, for uh, for uh, for people who are interested in our product.
With or
If you
without karaoke, Angus?
yes, oh yes, that would be a world class place to do
I
the
mean, it's
karaoke.
House of
Yes.
Blues, right? Exactly.
Exactly. I know there will be a microphones there. So
Very
you probably
exactly.
don't need, you're going to do it live. Yes, absolutely. And yes, in October, I'll be at ISC2 Security Congress. I'm passionate about communities. You're going to hear me when I'm talking about communities. I started uh, as a mathematician, uh, and, and when I am on the project, typically they don't know where to put mathematicians at. So they will give me the position. Say, hey, why don't you do data mining? Okay, do data mining. Um, how about data science? Because more things more like frontier. Frontier means like their terms has not been defined. Nobody really know what they're doing, so they always give me jobs, something like that. And that's indirectly answer your question how I move from one position to the
It's
other.
true.
Uh, and when and I look back after a few years, I look back say, okay, I have enough knowledge in public sector, typically we do things in a containment environments. When we are done, we folded the project. We turn in we turn in our results to the government, and we close the container. So I don't get to keep anything other than a whole bunch of clearance. And then I realized that
And what's in your head, right?
there you go. Yes, there you go. But it's
That they
not
can't take away.
that's they cannot take away in the experience exactly.
Right.
And it's to me it's not it's somewhat not tangible because I can't really tell you exactly what
Sure.
I do. And because also there's some NDA that I've signed.
Right.
And I figure out that I need to do something to tell the world that, this is what I have done. So I started to take for example, certifications. For example, CISSP, Certified Information Security Professionals, and CCSP, Certified Cloud Security Professionals. And I do that and met a lot of friends. And they will tell me that, hey, you should do this, you should try that. It's going back to the mindset when I was on the rolling team. Um, when I roll starboard side and port side, and I have little tiny guy on the in rolling at the heavyweight, and they could fit me as a coxswain. I could roll as a featherweight, and
Wow.
I know I'm not in the good positions with in the heavyweight crew, so I always open for options. You know, uh, starboard side, port side. And it's the same approach when I come to doing things with people. I I'm openly I'm open to options, and I'm willing to try. And one certification leads to the other. And some people tell me that, hey, I think your experience in this, you could consider to take that. So I
Yeah.
that's how that might answer your earlier question. Or well, private conversation. How I uh, um gain our certification from there. Uh, Once I had that, it's easier to tell a story because I have an anchoring point. I can tell that this is what happened when I got my CISSP. And this is, and you were asking me, so how did you become DevCon Boom? How did you do this? How did you do that? It's all evolving in things that, the
It's an
communities that I've been
intricate
in.
mesh, but
Yes,
connected,
like data
right?
mesh, it's
Yes.
connected.
Yes.
And involving in the community, volunteer. I volunteer as a moderator. I volunteer for many positions they assign me to, and from there I get to know more people, and they learn about my reputation, the work that I have done, and now leads to as a speaker at the ISC2 Security Congress, and it's
Beautiful.
wonderful. Yes, and the ISC2 is one of few organizations that I have seen. Um, they have give members so much opportunities to grow, to learn. And it to me is almost like risk free. I can try different things and I can have their feedback and learn from that experience.
Excellent. So you practice what you preach. Your life is this intricate data mesh, and you also use the word data fast. So it is you celebrate and enjoy what you do. As we transition now, I want to come back to you as we close. This has been a great conversation. We're not done yet, Angus. So on the data side, you say data scientist, and like you said, you gave us a little brief insight into your life. You're like, look, I work really hard, I go really deep, and then at the end of the day, we close the container, seal it, and it's put away for the organization that you're working for, and you move on to the next project, right? So when you hear the term data scientist, you're expecting a very serious guy, who is no fun, no smiles. Yet you've jaywalked in China, you have karaokeed also somewhere at the top of a building, and VIP and team and individual rowing. So pretty exciting life. What is your superpower?
What is my superpower? Uh, it's a great question. So at this moment stage of my life is networking, building community. Uh, I and but the important thing is not just the superpower. It's my mindset. It has to be right because your superpower could be used for wrong intention. I was watching a show called Loki when I was flying back from Taiwan.
Uh-huh.
You know,
I watched the same one. Yes.
he was the bad guy and then he
Uh-huh.
turned to the good guy. It's the mindset change. Once you have the right mindset, keep going with it, and the community you have involved built as a giver, not a taker, it will start to evolve around you, and it will give you the support. It's amazing support. Um, so talking about me, my experience is really building the community, giving it back to the community, and over time, you have the momentums from the supports you get from people around.
Networking, an ongoing journey. I'm reminded of Joseph Campbell's journey of a champion. You
To
do need the bad guys, right? All heroes need the villains.
the book,
So
yes.
please continue with all the good things that you're doing. Um, what's if I as you look back, right? I mean, now, or let's just pause for a moment. I'm going to go with an East meets West moment. Are you ready for this? Um,
Yes, I'm ready.
if you had a billboard, right? So the question really is, if you had a billboard, what's a quote or a saying or a mantra that you live by?
Oh, oh yes, I have it on my LinkedIn. Yes, make the world a safer place. Make
Love
the
it.
world a safer place in your own way. Make the world a safer place.
Same place. I like it. It's succinct.
Thank you.
It's what you do personally and professionally. It's beautiful. Um,
Thank you.
to end, and this has been a lot of fun. What are you excited about? What passion projects? Something you have to look forward to, either personal or professional. Um, what are you excited about? Do you have any passion projects?
Yes, I have many projects and multiple passions. What I'm excited about is to be at currently in my career level and my knowledge and the peoples around me. I'm able to pull that together. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And when the execution, when I see the result, it's very amazing. And with the right organization, binary defense, that's supporting me to do what I want to do. This is truly amazing. So, for example, just before this call, I was talking with Johns Hopkins University, the Applied Math and Statistics Department, developing a data fast or data thons, like similar to hackathons. We are figuring out how to put this together. At the same time, I have so much support from alumni in my network who are willing to participate in this, either playing advisory role or being the judge or being a volunteer. And this is amazing experience. Anything I do, I told my boss, Jason Vast, he is always being supportive, and I can't ask for more. That's what I'm enjoying doing. On the side, I do a trail run. Okay, going back to community. I have this community, so-called my muddy shoes. We run Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and we go um, running beyond 7 miles, typically on Saturday, 10 miles or so, with my wife, and I enjoy it, and with my little terrier, Komacha. Um,
Love it.
and
Does he?
that's what I
Does
enjoy.
does Komacha have muddy shoes too?
Yes, in fact,
Good. Nice.
yes, and everybody's know her and love her because she's a little tiny
Beautiful.
dog and run down distance. And a rock climbing, yeah, that's how.
Oh
That's
wow.
rock climbing is it's been my passion since my college year, and just so it goes back to you. I when I'm doing something like you say, data science, advanced and serious, putting a lot of time, I need to balance that. And those are great things to help me to balance and help me to reconnect or connect with my wife as well as my friends.
Angus Chen, this has been a ton of fun. You are one of my rare guests that I can unconditionally say that, you wear your passion on your sleeve. And the old adage, if it's fun, then it's not work. And, it's a reason you probably show up to work with a big grin on your face every day because you enjoy what you're doing. And now you've got me curious. If there's one thing I want to be a fly on the wall for, it's you with a karaoke mic at the House of Blues next week. So, I might try to slip in. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
I will send you a photo of it. Yes.
Deal.
Thank you. Thank you so much and having
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this fun and exciting episode. I called it in the beginning that this would be an exciting conversation, and Angus Chen delivered. Thank you very much, sir, for all the fun and the great conversation we had. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Secure IT as I continue the journey and the discussions learning from the insights of our customers, vendors, end users, and various people that we come across. Make sure to follow this podcast wherever your podcasts are per rate form. And of course, don't forget to direct message me on LinkedIn or X with feedback, questions, comments, and complaints. Thanks, everyone, and see you next month.